When I sat down to watch this series, the last thing that I was thinking was the main quote would be perfectly splendid.
And it's perfectly splendid.
Let's talk about The Haunting of Bly Manor. Hey, what's going on? It's Tyler. Welcome back to TLC Reviews. So, after the successful season of Haunting of Hill House with some excellent performances, and if I'm being honest, better than most of the horror movies on Netflix, we knew we would most likely be getting a second season. But how would they continue this series, right? I mean, with the way that Hill House ended, it's like, well, it's kind of all wrapped up. Where are they going to go from here? Well, The Haunting of Bly Manor is in itself a completely different, separate story, but with the same actors. It's all based on The Turn of the Screw, which is a very old horror novella from the 1800s, and I would suggest maybe before watching this to maybe look into that, because to put it bluntly, The Haunting of Bly Manor is not so much a ghost story. It's actually, in fact, sort of a love story. But don't let that put you off. This show has plenty to offer. So let's get into it. The Haunting of Bly Manor tells the story of a young governess hired by a man to look after his niece and nephew at the family country house after they fall into his care. Arriving at the Bly estate, she begins to see apparitions that proceed to haunt the premises. As mentioned before, the cast roughly consists of the same actors. You might even recognize the lead actress from a different show, from You, right? I mean, honest to God, when I first saw this show, I didn't recognize her because in You, she's a brunette, in this, she's blonde. The show also stars Henry Thomas, who is grown up now, from E.T. Yes, it is him. Let's talk about these standouts. Easily the kids, all right? Played by newcomers Emily Bia Smith and Benjamin Evan Ainsworth. Now, sometimes in these kind of shows, the kids are the weakest element. But right away, I was hooked in by the friendly nature of the child actors who are extremely versatile in this series. That's all I'm going to say. The story is narrated by Carla Gugino, who exhibits a phenomenal British accent. She does have a smaller role in the show, but she provides a lot to the overall content of the show. And it begins from there. Now let's talk about what did I like about The Haunting of Bly Manor. First of all, I was captivated nearly right away by the new characters. The child actors do a phenomenal job of making you feel invited in and happy. And then they build on the eventual tension added to the show. Another thing that I really liked about it was the overall cinematography. Beautiful, absolutely breathtaking. It immediately drops you into this olden day setting with some excellent locations. Then once you're at the manor, it's this big, vast area, perfect for all sorts of terror to be added in. Now, what I didn't like about it was, well, I felt that once a certain character was introduced, the show kind of slowed down to a halt. Pacing definitely took a nosedive. Also, towards the latter half of the series, there's a point where they start talking about dreams, and although it does add a lot to the content of the story and it makes sense, my interest started to really drop at that point. Some people might say that Bly Manor is nowhere near as scary, and you would be right. Like I said, this is much more of a love story or a psychological horror rather than the jump scare fest of the first season. But there's more than enough creepy imagery and tense scenes to keep you thrilled. A standout for me takes place midway through the show where one of the characters gets trapped in the closet. And just the acting of this character and the claustrophobic nature of the scene. Man, like the hair on my arm was standing up and you definitely feel the tension. I found The Haunting of Hill House to be much more harder to follow when I initially watched it, and much more complicated and complex than Bly Manor. Bly Manor was much more cut and dry. Not as many complex characters and storylines, and I found myself a bit more invested in this show this time around. Each and every character is very fleshed out, especially the kids who get plenty of time to shine throughout each episode. And I loved what they did with Henry Thomas's character this time as well. Much more engaging, inviting, and interesting. If you're thinking of watching this series, just know that The Haunting of Bly Manor tells, for the most part, a compelling story full of creepy imagery and well thought out characters with some excellent twists and turns, and it's overall, in my opinion, easier to follow. If you enjoyed Haunting of Hill House, there's more than enough material for you to like, but just know that it is less of a haunting and more about the human mind and the relationships we develop. It's much more of a realistic story, in my honest opinion. I'm going to give The Haunting of Bly Manor a B+. But now it's your turn. I want to know what you think. Did you like this better than Hill House, or was Hill House more your thing? You can let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm having a great time with this channel, but of course I'm still new, so any likes and subscribers really go a long way. But overall, I'm just a guy that likes talking about movies. So join the conversation with me below. But until next time, I'm Tyler with TLC Reviews, and thanks for watching.